Welcome back to Free America. Thanks for joining me. Today I want to talk about Kephart knives. Horace Kephart is, kind of a guy that I admire. He has, he was one of the outdoors guys, from the 20s and 30s that they kind of brought back, camping and outdoors activities. And he designed a very simple knife. It looks a lot like this one here. So today there are a lot of Kephart knives on the market, made by some really high-speed, custom knife manufacturers. And there's a couple of other ones I'm going to show you as well. So I'm going to talk about this one for just a second. You probably recognize this pattern on this knife. This is an Old Hickory Ontario butcher knife that I modified. I took some black walnut and brass pins. This is black walnut from right here on my farm. And I modified this knife. So there's a lot of guys doing that on YouTube. And, I also wet formed this sheath. But, so these knives right here are condors, right? These are condor Kepharts, and this is the sheath that it comes with. It's a nice little sheath. One of the things I really like about it is that it's very true to the original Kephart knife design. It also has a 90-degree spine, which I admire. The problem for me with the condor is that the handle is just too small in my hands. It's just not quite big enough. And the other problem is it comes with this nice sheath, but falls right out. So kind of unhappy with that. I did buy a couple of blanks actually, and I'm going to work on making a bigger handle for this knife. I'm also going to put a top edge on this knife because a spear point knife, in my opinion, is also a great stabber, but it's not really going to be a very good stabber without a top edge on it. So this is a work in progress. Another knife out there that resembles the Kephart is the Ontario Blackbird. So this is the Ontario Blackbird. You can see I put a little bit of use on it, not a heck of a lot. It's not really a Kephart knife, but it's got the flat grind and the spear point shape like the Kephart. And the handle on this knife is definitely big enough. So I'll talk about the other knives that are out there, simply because I don't own any of them. I'll tell you that LT Wright makes the Genesis, and the Genesis is a wonderful, awesome, beautiful knife. It also starts at $200, which is a little rich for my blood. I had a chance to talk with LT at one of the gun shows here in Virginia, and he's a wonderful human being. And I really admire his knives. If I had, a few $100s laying around, I'd buy one, but I just don't. So Prepared Mind 101 was giving an LT Wright Genesis away, and of course I entered and I haven't heard anything, so I'm guessing I didn't win it. So another very nice another very nice Kephart knife is the one made by Bark River. So Bark River makes a 4-inch Kephart, and they go between $200 and $250. I just can't. Like I said, I just can't stomach that. So beautiful knife. I'd love to have one, but I probably would spend that money on something else. Lon Humphreys makes a beautiful Kephart knife. Everybody loves it. It's a 4.5-inch blade knife, and starts at about $260. Again, awesome, faithful, beautiful reproduction of the Kephart knife. My favorite of all of them, and coincidentally the least expensive of all those custom knives, is the one made by Lucas Forge. Lucas Forge Kephart knives are very, very true to the original form. They're beautiful. He does a great, I mean, beautiful handles, different styles of blade finish and so forth, and he'll do them in 4 and 5 inch lengths. So, but they start at $190. So once again, there we are. Pretty expensive knife. So for guys like me, I wanted to show you this. So this knife, you may see, it has the little dip right here, right? So this is one of the criteria that Kephart had on his knife, right? Have a little. So this was a feature that Kephart insisted on. So there's a couple of guys out there on YouTube that have videos about how to modify your Old Hickory butcher knife, right? Because this knife started out like this. That's what it looked like. So kind of give you an idea. You can pop these handles right off. These are, squash rivets. They're not very, they're not hard to pop off at all. And I didn't reuse it. This is hickory, but I didn't reuse it because it's not long enough for me. So you'll notice that the Old Hickory knife does not have the guard, right? So what I did was I used this portion of the blade right here to form the guard, and then I cut it up so that it's farther up here. If you can see that. Does that make sense? So I shaped the blade the way I wanted to, right? You see how this part is gone up here, and then I just formed it into a spear point, and then gave it a little convex grind, and it's pretty damn sharp, of course, because it's an Old Hickory butcher knife with 1095 carbon steel. It's a great piece of equipment. Like I said, these scales I formed from a piece of wood that I have. I have lots of black walnut here on the farm, and I'm pretty sure I actually salvaged these grips from the wood pile for the wood stove. So from the burn pile. But as you can see, they're nice and hard. And what I needed was a bigger handle, right? I needed something that was big enough for my mitts, and this is it. So I didn't round these as much as the traditional Kephart knives, but I didn't really want to, right? So when you look at the handle on the Condor, right, it's very rounded, which is nice. But like I said, for me, it's a little too small in my hands, and these are much more substantial, right? If that makes sense. So if you're like me and you can't afford to spend $200 odd to get yourself the knife that you want, you can modify an Old Hickory. It's really not that hard if you have some tools and a little bit of know-how. Oh, and of course it's got a 90-degree spine, right? It'll throw sparks, and it's easy to sharpen. What can I say? I like it a lot. I cleaned it up a little bit for this video so that it wouldn't look like complete trash. But there you go, boys and girls. There's a couple of videos out there from guys who modify these knives into these knives. One of them is called Outdoor. I'll leave you a link to his videos. He kind of gives you a good once over the world. And I'll leave you links to the LT Wright, Lon Humphreys, Bark River, Lucas Forge, and what do you call it? Ontario, right, for the Blackbird. So a new Blackbird is going to cost you a little bit of money too, over $100. So I came across this one, and let me see if I can get this to show. Yeah, you see that right there? This is a factory second. So this knife cost me about $65 delivered, and to be honest with you, I can't imagine what the second part of it is. It cuts really well. You know, it takes an edge really well. Anyway, so I'll leave those links for you, and I'd love to have your comments. So tell me what you guys think. I really appreciate you spending time with me today and looking at these knives. God bless America.